The subject we were discussing last time was quite interesting, but it was not yet fully covered. So many other aspects to it. But first of all, I would like to complete the story of the lost mullah. It's a very interesting case like that of Sherlock Holmes. You know, lost and found mullah, who he was and what happened, and how very tall claims were made about him, and what was the reaction of the government. It's very, very interesting, and also a story which reveals the inside picture of what's happening in a country which unfortunately is under the clutches of the mullah. This is what happens to such countries who fall under the sway of mullah. And the rest of the Muslim world should take their lesson from that. To tell what sort of mullahs they are and what happens. I have brought some Pakistani newspaper coverage. Instead of making claims, the way they asserted, the tall claims they made, immediately they started this campaign, but instead of the early references, some early references are also present. But I should have liked to have immediate references available, which were published in the newspapers soon after his so-called disappearance. इसको उन्होंने वो भी नहीं किया हुआ, organize करें, date wise, हाँ. See, Raja Zafaluk is the same man who was posted as ambassador of Pakistan to Egypt under the auspices or blessings of Saudi Arabia, in fact. He was very close to Saudi Arabia for his perhaps anti-Ahmadiyya role in the country. When he was not re-elected and had been roundly defeated by his opponent in the area where he thought he had become doubly popular because of being anti-Ahmadiyya, he had nowhere to show his face. So Saudi Arabia employed him for a while, and he remained in Saudi under their blessing. Then this can be inferred safely that under Saudi's suggestions or pressure, Pakistan government appointed this defeated man to Egypt for a while. And we came to learn of his activities there through a very interesting coincidence. He once invited African ambassadors from all various African countries. And the subject of discussion was anti-Ahmadiyya mayors. Now, he wanted to create a center in Egypt to influence African countries to convince them to take similar stringent measures against Ahmadiyyat and follow the footsteps of Pakistan. The ambassadors who participated reacted either very coolly or very strongly against this. We said, what do you mean? This is not our purpose. You invited us. You are a political representative. You are not a religious representative. And we are not religious representatives of our country either. So it was reported by some of the ambassadors who participated to the Ahmadis in their respective countries. So I don't know the detail of what happened, but this was a total failure. And in one case, we received a regular report, full report, from the participant of that country in that conference that this is what passed and this is what we told them, and nothing doing. So he was frustrated and totally defeated on that count as well. Now he's living a life of, I don't know what sort of life that can be described. Allah knows best. But he is completely ousted from public life, in fact. This is the man, Raja Zafrul Haq, whom Egyptians should know well, right? I'm sorry to say that. Mentor of this man, Aslam Qureshi.
هو رجالي مولانا. He's still مولانا.
He is Mawla Aslam Qureshi.
Yes, Mawla Aslam, yes.
Now back to the so-called Maulana Aslam Qureshi. He was born in 1934 in Sialkot to a man named Roshandin Qureshi. He was appointed at Islamabad by Capital Development Authority Islamabad as an electrician, this Maulana Sahib. He has no record of having ever studied in any Islamic institute or school or madrasa either. The first certificate of Islamic knowledge which he obtained, the only certificate of Islamic knowledge which he obtained and which really gave him a big fame, was his attempted murder of Mirza Muzaffar Ahmad Sahib in 1970. This is the only Islamic study that he, in fact, has to his credit. And suddenly, this electrician became one of the most famous ulama of Pakistan, member of Khatm-e-Nubuwwat conference and this and that. Having been arrested after he was tried by a court because he had failed to succeed in murder, failed in murdering Muhammad Sahib. With the grace of Allah, still alive and working very well in the Jamaat. He was sentenced to 15 years rigorous imprisonment by the then court in Islamabad or Pindi. And the standard of justice was much higher in those days. I'm talking of those days. Nowadays it's impossible. I'll come to the same issue later on. I'll prove that the standard of our courts is completely different from it used to be in those days. So 70, he was arrested, but Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, late Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, ordered his release after 2 years and 8 months. So despite this decision, the government made it fully understood by all that if you attempt to murder an Ahmadi or a high official of government who happens to be an Ahmadi, we will treat you leniently, don't care about the court decisions. That was a precedent set for that. Then, after that, he went for Umrah and returned and started some small business which failed. Then he was officially employed by the Hafiz Khatm-e-Nubuwwat people, and in some capacity he worked in their office and with them. Now coming to the actual drama of his disappearance and murder by me. On the 17th of February 1983, suddenly Aslam Qureshi disappeared. He had taken his passport with him because he wanted to be fully identified if he was murdered. This is the man who is being murdered, so he had his papers and all the necessary things with him. When, according to them, he was abducted. So, according to this story, when he was abducted, he must have asked the abductors please to permit me to fetch my passport from my home, because everybody doesn't move about with the passport in his pocket in his own country. So anyway, he had run away with the papers, etc. On 23rd of February, that is 6 days after that, a case was registered against me in the police station in Sialkot, that he is the man under whose direction he has been abducted and possibly murdered. And I have told you the background of this. On 12th of July 1988, he was discovered to be alive and kicking in Iran. In between what happened, I turned to that. I want to give the true picture, to release the true picture of the mullah of Pakistan to the Arab world particularly. when they read the title Maulana this, Maulana that, Maulana this, they relate these Maulanas to the Arab ulama, which are which belong to a completely different brand. Arab ulama, however ferocious they may be, however strict in their orthodoxy and their firm attitude against the so-called opponents of Islam they may be, yet they have an image of honesty and dedication which is not generally challenged. They are taken as mistaken but not as willful deceivers. At least that is what I think. But when you talk of Pakistani ulama, you're talking of a completely different brand. So to give them a taste of what they are, I'm going to quote from newspapers the statements which were immediately published and almost every day regarding the abduction by this man. I have chosen just a few because I remember almost every day when I read the paper there was some mention, some here, some there about my involvement in this case. On the 26th February, 3 days after this, Maulana Abdul Qadir Ropudi, who is one of the most well-known ulama, the leaders of the ulama in Pakistan. His name is, everybody knows among the ulama what sort of status he occupies among the ulama. He said, if you appoint me and with me a Deobandi Maulana and maybe one Brelvi Maulana, within a matter of 2 months we will trace him and produce him. And if I fail to do that, I invite the government to shoot me publicly in Minto Park, Lahore. Right? Who had abducted and from where they were intending to recover. This was made further clear later on by another Maulana, who is so-called Maulana of course, Manzoor Chinoti. He declared that the matter is so simple. Arrest Mirza Tahir Ahmad, remove him to the torture cells in Qila, Lahore Qila, the castle of Lahore, and hang him upside down. Within a matter of a few hours, Maulana Aslam Qureshi will be in your hands. That was the tempo they were building against my image and in the image of Jamaat-e-Ahmadiyya. So then, after this, we reach 20th May, that is 26th. Lolak, 20th May of 83. How could he say things before this happened? Just a minute. There has to be some... right, 17th. Although it was, the case was registered on 23rd, he disappeared on 17th of February 1983, right? A case was registered on 23rd of February the same year. But a few days before that, the mullah knew who was the culprit and what had happened. So Lolak, and again a rabid paper of ulama, speaks of this issue. Ashiq-e Rasool, Mujahid Khatm Nabuwat, Maulana Aslam Qureshi ko अगवा करके शहीद कर दिया गया. The lover of Hadhrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam, the warrior who fights the battles of Khatm Nabuwat, he has been abducted and has been martyred at last.
When was that, Hudhoor?
Lolak, 20th May 1983. 3 days after the disappearance.
26.
I'm sorry, I'm awfully sorry. Yes, no. That's much later.
Okay.
I was thinking of May because it relates to my departure. I'm sorry. February. It was not February.
It was May.
It was May when he declared this. March, April, May, about 3 months. And he says that this reveals the future intentions of Ahmadis, Mirzais he calls them, that they are going to play a bloody drama in this country. And this is just the beginning, just wait and see what's happening. And on the 20th May, the same day, they gave a call for countrywide strike, which in some places the mullahs forcibly implemented, but most of the country, of course, wouldn't care for that. Then he said, on 17th of June, this paper said that the government of Pakistan has given a free hand to Qadiani dogs, and ulama are kept under confinement and under restrictions. So this is not a good a Muslim policy. You should better do something, or we'll come to the streets and see to it that the government is forced to change this policy. First call for Mirza Tahir Ahmad's involvement by name by the mullah appeared almost a year after that by Maulana Manzoor Chinoti, the so-called Maulana Manzoor Chinoti, who has made his name in being the most rabid of the mullahs of this period. Filthy language and no decency whatsoever. So this man made a public statement which was published in Nawai Waqt, a very highly respected paper of Pakistan, 18th of February 1984, almost a year after that. असलम कुरैशी की गुमशुदगी के सिलसिले में मिर्जा ताहिर अहमद को शामिल तफ्तीश किया जाए। हमने हुकूमत को 6 आदमियों के नाम तफ्तीश के लिए दिए थे, जिनमें मिर्जा ताहिर अहमद भी शामिल है। Soon after this incident, they had provided the government with 6 names, my name being included as the first culprit. And he said, we gave the list of those who were involved in this heinous crime of abduction of this Maulana and his ultimate murder to the government, but so far nothing has happened. I declare that if the murderer and abductor of this man is not found to be among the 6 names which I have given, you publicly shoot me in public. He's still living. Instead of being shot in public, instead of requesting the government to send some man, assassin to shoot him in public, to keep his promise, he has requested the government to provide him with some guards, because he is afraid that others would murder him. This is the Maulana. Have you come across such Maulanas in Arabia ever?
No,
Never.
sir.
Are you sure?
No.
Alhamdulillah, Allah bless Arabia. Mirza Chinoti, again, 28th of April 84. असलम कुरैशी शहीद हो गए हो तो मिर्जा ताहिर अहमद को कत्ल करके के जुर्म में फांसी की सजा दी जाए. Now he is toning down. He says, agar shaheed ho gaye ho. In the previous statement, he had categorically said that if his murderer is not caught, discovered from among these 6, the list of the 6 in which Mirza Tahir Ahmad is the leading figure, then you shoot me publicly. So it seems to be toned down a little bit. He said, if he has been murdered, then the man, of course, is me, Mirza Tahir Ahmad. He should be publicly hanged. Then Ziaul Haq, after I left the country, made this statement. मौलाना असलम कुरैशी की गुमशुदगी मेरे लिए बाइस तशवीश है. मामले की तहकीकात जारी है. हमारी कोशिशें जल्द बार आवर होंगी. It means that the disappearance of Maulana Aslam Qureshi is extremely, I'm extremely concerned with the disappearance of Maulana Aslam Qureshi. And the investigation is continuously proceeding further. And I assure you that inshallah, according to him, soon our efforts will bear fruit. Now remember, this is a very important period we are talking. Again, Lawlak declared Mirza Tahir Ahmad Maulana Aslam Qureshi ki asal qatil hain. Mirza Tahir Ahmad is the real murderer of Aslam Qureshi, whose body is not found, who just disappeared. Nobody knows where he went. You know why it happened so? Why in 84 after my departure? Before my departure, the impression was given to me by the government that Aslam Qureshi case, we know you have no involvement whatsoever in it. So rest assured, nothing to worry about. This assurance was delivered to me personally by the representative of an intelligence bureau from the highest level, who conveyed the message of Ziaul Haq a few days before he promulgated the ordinance. That is the cunning man that he was. I am going to explain to you. I was in Islamabad when I received an SP, Superintendent of Police, a senior officer, on behalf of the Intelligence Bureau, who told me that General Ziaul Haq sends you his message not to worry for what the mullahs are making, the noise of the mullahs are making. It's only a matter of a little time. The moment I have resolved the issue of Aslam Qureshi, I know you are not the murderer, of course. Then I'll be very firm with them and don't rest in peace. You see? While what they had planned was exactly the opposite. They had planned to use the drama of Aslam Qureshi to implicate me in his murder and to hang him like they had hanged Bhutto before. So to give the false impression that everything is going to be very fine. You just stay put where you are and things will be normalized, and I will see to it that these mullahs are punished. That was Ziaul Haq. Utter liar, liar of the highest order, or the liar of the first waters, as they say in England. Huh? You see? Then, but it didn't mean any sense to me, because I was not running away from anything. Only he had the impression that if we made this noise overmuch, then he may flee the country and attempt to flee the country, and he'll get out of our reach. Then why suddenly, after my departure, I was accused personally and repeatedly by the papers? Because they had planned to approach the British government, telling them that I had run away from justice and I was needed for a murder case. That was the conspiracy. Why suddenly you see these accusations by name a few days after my departure from the country? They should have been made, these accusations by name, before my departure, so that the government could move against me. Why after the departure? Because we have learned from here, from the British government, that they were very averse to give me the permission to stay in London Mass because of the pressure from the government. Fight went on, struggle went on between the Home Minister, who was Mr. Britton at that time. No. The Hadhrat is not that type. Mr. Britton, Leon Britton. And the Foreign Minister, who was Geoffrey Howe. So a debate, not a sort of debate, but a transfer of opinion, written opinion, demi-official letters, crossed hands quite a few times, until finally Mr. Britton had his decision imposed. But that is an interesting story. I'll come to that maybe later on. The pressure on the Foreign Office was so strong that they very strongly advised in writing the Home Office not to even consider my application for my self-appointment as a religious minister in the London Mosque. You see, I was the final appointing authority for the whole world for appointing Ahmadi Muslim missionaries anywhere in the world. And the Foreign Office said he cannot appoint himself, that sort of thing, because they said it would be very embarrassing for the British government. And it was also said that he would maybe he gives statements or something. I mean, these are the general reports I received from people who ran to the Foreign Office, came back, ran to the Home Office, and so on. So this is the sum total of the impression which was created on me. So I was told that you must employ a lawyer of high order to fight this case with the government, because they suspected that the mood is not all favorable. This was the background. Public statements were made in an organized manner. From this alim, that alim, published now and then in newspapers, naming me in person to have murdered, not abduction, to have murdered. So I would be wanted for police investigation, and the government through Interpol must return me to Pakistan. This was the drama which was being played.
واحد من
Chief of the
أشهر
Planning Commission of the government of Pakistan. It's a big officer there.
نعم.
On which day? So we'll come to that later on. His appearance on television after his return will be discussed later on.
Yeah, but when he was discovered in Iran?
Iran, it was 88.
88.
1988. He delivered this message through a police officer. Have you told this?
Not yet.
But I tell you, just a few days before the ordinance.
Yes, about
the Ahmadis being declared non-Muslims, they have no right to build mosques, call themselves Muslims, or they will be done this and that. All this, these restrictions on Ahmadis and the punishments, legal, penal code provisions in 26th of April 1984. 26th of April. And the message I received from him, everything is fine. No. That is on 20th or 21st, just a few days before that.
Then?
The time is over now, about 2 minutes. So we'll begin tomorrow, where we have left.
In these 2 minutes, Hudhoor, would you permit me to give you a gift? The gift is that there is a brother from Algeria. He sent us many faxes, and he talked to me by telephone daily, every day.
Every day?
Every day. And for half an hour and sometimes for almost an hour. It is strange. It needs another presentation. But he accepted Ahmadiyya just by watching MTA. His mother is a very noble lady. She also accepted Ahmadiyya, and she is behind him. His family is listening to us every day, and they said, what should we do? How can we prove that we are Ahmadis? I told them, by saying that we are Ahmadis, you are Ahmadis, there is no problem. And they...
MashaAllah. It's a great gift.
Alhamdulillah. They beg Hudhoor.
I tell them ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba.
Jazakumullah. They beg Hudhoor to pray for him, because he intends to come to see Hudhoor in maybe at the end of this month. Inshallah. And he needs the visa. He needs your prayer to get this visa. Inshallah, Hudhoor.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.